Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the City Council will begin in a few moments. The City Council meets on the first, second, and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. and serves as the city's policymaking and legislative body. Each meeting is governed by Robert's Rule of Order unless those guidelines conflict with city ordinance or charter. City Council meetings offer an opportunity for citizens to speak directly to their elected representatives. Those in attendance are invited to address the Council during the public input segment at the beginning of the agenda. At that time, any issue that is not subject to formal action later in the agenda can be addressed. Testimony that concerns a resolution or an ordinance's second reading is only allowed when those specific agenda items are being addressed by the Council. When addressing the Council, citizens should speak directly into the microphones at the podium and state their names for the record after being recognized by the Chair. To accommodate and respect all viewpoints, citizen comments are limited by ordinance to no more than 5 minutes each. Comments should be respectful and focused on providing new information that will benefit the Council's deliberative process. By city ordinance, all remarks must be addressed to the City Council as a body and not to any City Council member, including the mayor. The Chair reserves the right to limit the number of speakers. City Council meetings are broadcast live on CityLink and online at siouxfalls.org. Information regarding the City Council, its committees, meetings, briefings, and members is available by visiting siouxfalls.org/council or by calling the Council office at 605-367-8085. Thank you for your interest in Sioux Falls City Government.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's meeting. We certainly appreciate it. It is Monday, February 6th. And first, we want to introduce you to your City Council.
Council members Erpenbach.
Here.
Kiley.
Here.
Neitzert.
Here.
Rolfing.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Staley.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Councilors, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We lead our meetings here in Sioux Falls with an invocation. We're very pleased to have John Glasser here with the Direct Line Prayer Center. It's his first opportunity to lead us in prayer, and we thank you, John. Thank you so much. What we'd ask is if you could just stand, please, for the invocation, and then remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow your heads with me. Father, we just thank you, God, that you're the God of this city. We just acknowledge you, Jesus, that you bled and died on the cross for our sin and the sins of this city. So, Lord, we just acknowledge you. And Father, we thank you for Mike Huther. Lord, you say in the book of Romans that you set up kings and powers and people and places. So, Lord, we acknowledge him. And God, I pray for an honoring of Mike Huther in this city that he's never seen before from the people. God, I pray for the prosperity of Sioux Falls. You have a great calling on the city, Lord. You brought the nations here. So, Father, we pray that as this city prospers, that the people would prosper and that the country would know about Sioux Falls. And God, finally, I pray for unity among this council and among this city, Lord. We pray for reconciliation in a time of great trouble. Father, you're our refuge. So, Jesus, be in this meeting, be glorified in everything that's said and done in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Which one do you want? Yeah, this is the cable. This is what's actually... We do have Cub Scout Pack 10 from Holy Cross Lutheran Church with us tonight. And if you would you mind standing up so we could at least acknowledge you and thank you for your service as well. Welcome. Council, our consent agenda tonight, any changes or motions, please?
Second, Selbrig.
Council Chair Rolfing's made a motion to approve our consent agenda, seconded by Councilor Selbrig. Thank you both. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Our regular agenda tonight, Councilors, any changes to that? Motions?
Move to approve.
Second, Erpenbach.
Council Vice Chair Kylie has made a motion to approve our regular agenda, seconded by Councilor Erpenbach. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you. Folks, again, welcome. This is the public input portion of our meeting. And really, you can come up and speak to the council about really any topic that's of importance to you. If it is a topic that's later on in the agenda, we'd ask you to wait for that. But if it's something else, come on forward. Really, just three things we'd ask. Introduce yourself to the people of our town. If you could keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, the council would appreciate that. And then just a reminder, we would ask you to speak to the body as a whole versus picking out one particular individual with your comments. So is anybody intrigued in terms of speaking to the council tonight? Welcome.
My name is Jeff DeYoung. I guess the reason to address is just kind of a comment. Dealing with some of the people down at City Hall, I hope that they know what they're doing, but I've had a couple of occasions in the past where they'll tell me one thing to start with and then change your mind down the road. I had once, I spent the money to have a detention pond engineered and then brought the plans down there for approval. And I was told, well, we made a mistake. It also needs to be a retention pond. So I spent my money to have an engineer draw up a detention pond. That I threw that money away. Now I've had another occasion where I went down to get a building permit to install some storage units. And I was told, well, to have a drainage study done. So I did that. That got the approval. I went back for a permit. Well, come to find out, oh, we made a mistake. Your land is not platted. The platting was vacated back in 1903. Now, in about 95, I had a permit in there to build a shop. In 2005, I had a building permit to build a double-car garage. And one of the comments they made is, well, since your land is not platted, and we just found that out, if something happens to your buildings now, we probably won't give you a permit to replace them unless you plat your land. Is there any recourse? Because I've got the land, I've got the buildings, I've had permits for the buildings, but now I'm at a point, what am I supposed to do? They changed their mind in there. They don't, they'll tell me one thing once, and the next time around, they're not going to tell me, they're going to change their mind. I can take this up to the sidewalk issue along Arrowhead Park too. At one of my meetings, I was told that, okay, as long as you don't have a private access, you don't have to pay for the sidewalk. And I got a letter saying that I have to pay for the sidewalk. Now, where's my recourse here? Are they not telling me the truth down there? Can I believe anything they say? They won't give me statements in writing. Is there any recourse? I don't know the answer to it. Is there something else I'm supposed to be doing to keep the city happy to it? They're changing their minds. If they don't know what to tell me the first time, then don't give me an answer until they know the answer. But I just don't quite understand it. I've had issues with this in the past. I've had the same issue again come up now to it. And I'm not sure on the sidewalk issue how you're going to vote later, but this is basically, the question is, why don't they have the right answer to start with? Why did they give me an answer and it's incorrect? I don't like the idea of spending my money and wasting it in there, but if somebody could give me an answer in the future, I'd appreciate it. Or maybe they can just put all their statements down in writing if that's the answer to it. But thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Jeff. Thank you. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council? Welcome.
Tim Stanga, Sioux Falls. I went to the City Planning Commission meeting the other day, and a lot of things didn't go very right that day. But being able to look back at everything, I talked to Jeff Schmidt, talked to Mike Cooper, talked to some of the city council people on things that should be changed with the Planning Commission. When they run the consent agenda, to be able to come and talk about it, well, I came in the side door and he was sitting in the front, didn't know how things were done, wasn't able to talk on the what I was going to talk on the consent agenda, but it's not put on the screen either. And I'm hoping that we can work together to be able to put something on the screen on the consent agenda to be able to let all the public know what is being passed, whether we speak on it or whether anybody comes up and talks about it, to be able to let the public know what is being passed on the consent agenda. Another thing I realized that I had a couple city council members told me to call in and leave a message, or call in to see about what I was talking about on the consent agenda. I left a message, never got a call back. I left another message, didn't get a call back. And then I did come to the meeting, and then Mike did call me back on Thursday with help of some of the city council being able to talk to Mike and get a hold of me. Mike's a great guy, don't get me wrong. But we talked about some issues. People were being told that they normally when things are done, it has a first reading. You can't come and talk on the first reading, but you can talk on the second reading. And that's sort of misleading people because they can come and talk on public input on the 5 minutes. So hopefully we can get that changed. Like I say, not being able to get a phone call back, Mike said that that's not tolerable. He said he would check in and see. He did tell me that I did see you did call a couple times and I didn't get a phone call back. It's just a few things that need to be tweaked, and being able to work with the city council and Mike and everything, hopefully we get it taken care of. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that. Welcome, sir.
Yes, sir. I am Jim Mitchell and retired from the Argus Leader. My wife Sharon and I own 2 lots on the corner of East 29th Street North and Wayland in Norton Acres. I come today to discuss the fact that the snow gates were not used on my street after the recent snow last week. We have a double-wide driveway on the north and a single driveway on the west of our property. Immediately after the snow, we took our electric snowblower and cleared off the double driveway. The following evening, I heard the road grader coming down and went out to watch it do its work. I was less than 15 foot from the street. To my surprise, the grader did not have a snow gate on it, and they did not make any attempt to make my driveway easier for me to get onto the street, and left me with a 2-foot-plus window of snow all the way from one side of the other to the other. There was no way I could have driven over the furrow of snow. It was up to us to remove that pile of snow. I am 75 years old and have had multiple back surgeries. My wife is but just a little younger than me and is battling cancer. It took us over an hour working together to get the snow removed so we could get our car out of our driveway. We never did get the other snow taken out of the other driveway, and it remains there even now. After removing that snow, we were sore and crippled up for several days afterwards. My neighbor across the road is 60 and crippled up. He could not even get his car out of the driveway to get food and medicine and had to hire someone to come and clean out his entryway. I called the street department, and the lady said that all graders had snow gates, and I was wrong. However, I know what they look like, and I know how they work, and I know that they are not equipped. This one was not equipped with them. She told me I should call 211 and have a volunteer come and move the snow. My question is this: why did they not have the snow gates on the graders, and will they use them the next time? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Welcome. Sir, you can come forward. Welcome.
My name is Annette Mahone.
Hi, Annette.
And I bring good news. I am here on behalf of Bob Harris. He is our president for the South Dakota African American History Museum at the Pavilion. We are, I guess I'm here to invite you all to our awards banquet, the Bud Williams Humanitarian Awards Banquet. We had our first one last year and honored Porter Williams. And we call it the Bud Williams Humanitarian Award because he was Mitchell's mayor and paved the way for a lot of businesses and black folks to do that. And so this year we had many nominations, and we have chosen Emma Armstrong, who is over 100 years old. And we're really proud of her, of our nomination and our select of her. And our banquet will be this Friday at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 in the Schulte Room at the Pavilion. And Emma won't be able to be there, of course, because of her age and because of the cold South Dakota winter. And she will be Skyped in. So I invite you all. If you need a ticket, there will be tickets there in the beginning. They're $30. And or Mark Blackburn at Augustana has tickets, and Bob Harris has tickets. Of course, I always have a ticket in my purse for you. So please tell your friends, and please know that you're invited on Friday at 5. Thank you.
And thank you as well. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, council members and mayor, for the opportunity to address you. This is a follow-up to the informational meeting that occurred this afternoon. There were several unanswered questions.
And sir, if you could just give us your name, please.
Sure, Tommy Schmitz.
Thank you, Mr. Schmitz.
You bet. There was a few unanswered questions and some points of clarification that I'd like to make. My background is I've been a member of the Sioux Falls Police Department since 1996. I've been a union steward at the police department since 2007, so for the last decade. I can assure you this has been the most arduous negotiation during my tenure on the executive council. Our entire basis for the negotiations has been recruitment of new officers and retention of existing officers. We've continually put our best foot forward through this process, and we continue to work towards a successful resolution, even throughout the impasse process. Despite this, the City of Sioux Falls team has been willing to negotiate any further. The points of clarification I'd just like to touch on briefly. The Sioux Falls Police Department authorized strength is 254, not 350 members, as was alluded to earlier. The FOP labor union has 225 members of the 228 that are eligible. That's officers and sergeants. So we have a 98%, 98% membership participation. The City of Sioux Falls final and best contract offer, which was voted down by 95% of our membership. During the negotiation process, there were no demands made by the FOP Labor Council as to how to fund the proposals. That certainly would not be in our area of responsibility, and although we may have made suggestions, there was certainly nothing that would be misconstrued as a demand that was made. For clarification, the COLA that was addressed earlier, or cost of living allowance, that we negotiate is actually a combination of a wage increase to keep us competitive and a cost of living allowance, according to HR Director O'Toole, as opposed to negotiating those items separately. So when we negotiate that, it's referred to in the contract as COLA, but it is a reflection of both cost of living allowance as well as a wage increase. Also, there was some comparisons to similar agencies made earlier, specifically the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office and the state of South Dakota. I think the people here would agree that those agencies could reasonably articulate an inability to pay argument. So it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. There was also a little bit of confusion on what the base wage was that was referred to earlier. Anything earned above the base wage is for working outside your normal working hours and time away from family, friends, or other commitments. We as the FOP Labor Council are extremely disappointed. We consider this a failure to have gotten to this point with the contract. Certainly the City of Sioux Falls and the City Council should also consider it the same. This contract will have little to no impact on resolving the issues of recruitment and retention, as our current attrition rate of new hires is nearly 40%. We would encourage council members that were frustrated through this process with lack of information to reach out to the Labor Council, and we'll be happy to meet with you and answer any further questions you may have.
Tommy, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome.
Hello, my name's RJ Burchads.
Hi, RJ.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
I just have a growing concern for East Bank's safety. I live at the Crane and I work at the Frank for the last year and change. And there's been numerous times I've almost been ran over on A Street, crossing the street at our crosswalk, let alone the numerous crosswalks to the bridge. And I just feel like just little things like a lit up sign or it's the law in the middle of the crosswalk would help, because the lines in that one typical sign hasn't been helping so far. Numerous coworkers, many customers that I've witnessed at East Bank have a growing concern, and yeah.
RJ, great job. RJ, could you, your last name, please?
Burchads.
Burchads.
Yep.
Thank you, RJ. Appreciate it. Well, folks, thank you very much. Great input. We appreciate it. I know the council appreciates it as well. Item number 32.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor?
Could we handle, or you're going to handle these individually? 32, 33? Or do we do them as a?
I'm sorry, we're just going to start with item number 32.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And then, thank you.
Okay, my problem.
Good job.
Item 32, new 2017 retail wine license for Golden Coin Casino, Inc., Golden Coin Casino 2, 3404 South Marion Road, with conditional use permit 6046-2016, being approved on January 4th, 2017, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 33. New 2016-17 retail malt beverage license for Golden Coin Casino, Inc., Golden Coin Casino 2, 3404 South Marion Road, with conditional use permit 6046-2016, being approved on January 4, 2017, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 34. Request to include video lottery terminals with the new 2016-17 retail malt beverage license for Golden Coin Casino, Inc., Golden Coin Casino 2, 3404 South Marion Road, pending final inspections per Fire, Health, and Building Services. Item 35. Special one-day liquor license request for Sioux Falls State Theater Company to be operated at the State Theater, 316 South Phillips Avenue, for a fundraiser on February 26, 2017.
Hi, Jamie. Good evening.
Good evening. Jamie Palmer with licensing. Items 32, 33, and 34 are all for the same business and the same applicant. It's obviously just the wine, malt, and the video lottery that they want to add to their new casino. And item 35 is a special one-day request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Jamie. Councilors, any questions or comments, motions?
Move to approve, Erpenbach.
Second, Rolfing.
Councilor Box made a motion to approve these items, seconded by Councilor Chair Rolfing. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley? Yes. Erickson?
Yes.
Councilors, thank you. That is passed 8-0. Item 36.
Sustain or override the mayor's veto of ordinance 14-17, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 95, Parks and Recreation, Subchapter Park and Recreation Board, to require audio or video recording of Parks and Recreation Board meetings and requiring 48 hours prior to official action.
Thank you very much. Folks, this is an item where you can speak to the council on this topic. If there's anybody who's interested in doing that, we'd ask you to come forward now. and then we'll go to the council after that. Welcome.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Huther. My name is Lorraine Lindquist. I currently serve as the vice president of the Sioux Falls Parks and Recreation Board. I'm in my second term of service to the city in this capacity. President Patty Abdallah is out of town tonight and unable to be here with us, so I would like to address you all on behalf of the officers of the Parks and Rec Board. I've heard this issue of recording and posting audio or video of our board meetings as a solution looking for a problem, and I think that that very accurately describes what this situation is. I'm not sure why our particular board was singled out for this additional scrutiny. Our board serves the mayor and the city council in an advisory capacity. We do not have spending authority. However, our recommendations are there to assist the mayor and the city council as you consider parks and recreation related items that come before the city council. I realize that our minutes do not detail a lot of the back and forth that goes into the recommendations that we make, but if additional information is desired regarding our board discussions, any council members are certainly welcome to and encouraged to contact either Director Kearney or one of the officers of the board. Not everything needs to be dictated by a city ordinance. Most often, a simple effort to reach out to one another personally can have that desired effect. If needed, there's still the option of listening to the audio recordings that we do at every one of our meetings. And I would hope that the latter would be more productive and a collaborative solution. In this day and age when everyone who has a smartphone is a videographer, there is an overabundance of videos available to view online. And unfortunately, in some cases, there are snippets that are used for nefarious means or are taken out of context. Were this to happen in this situation, I have no doubt that citizens, when asked to serve on a city advisory board, would have second thoughts as to whether or not they wanted to open themselves up to that sort of scrutiny. And I do believe that it is human nature for most of us, many of us at least, to be much more measured in our words when we know that they are being recorded in some way. And I would hate to see the free flow of dialogue that we now enjoy in our board meetings be stifled in any way because of this. Since this issue has been discussed in recent weeks, I've had several citizens who have told me that if such a requirement were put into place, that they would no longer be interested in serving on a citizen advisory board for our city. We are private citizens, not public officials who are paid or swear an oath. We are simply a small group of Sioux Falls residents who love our city and love our parks and recreation system and want to do everything that we can do to help to make them the best that they can be. And I would urge you all to remember that and to treat us accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. My name is Jim Stavanger, and I'm a community volunteer, recently retired, and have the privilege of serving on the Parks Board. Different than Lorraine, I'm not an officer, and I'm relatively new in my term. I've been in about a year and a half. With respect to the Parks Board recording ordinance, I support the mayor's position and would like to provide some commentary just from a personal perspective. Speaking for me, I do find, and I spent 37 years in the corporate world, I do find that when I'm recorded and videotaped, that my natural style of engagement is more muted and reserved. Now, in this case, it wouldn't limit my desire to serve on the Parks Board, but I think it would restrict my desire to have robust, rich dialogue on board topics. Now, other community volunteers may shy away from committing their time to the community board because I don't think they really want to be in the public eye like what Lorraine talked about. Lorraine also talked a little bit about the advisory board, and I'd like to spend a few more minutes on that topic to give a little bit more clarity for the public and certainly reiterate for the council. We are an advisory board. all significant recommendations are created, vetted, and reviewed by the parks staff first. Then, if needed, reviewed by the Parks Board. Finally, if it's a major issue, all recommendations are made to the council. And periodically, the council adjusts, modifies, or changes the decisions or the recommendations made by the Park Board. And some examples, usually around annual budgetary items, capital improvement plans, and the rich dialogue we had a year or so ago around park fees, or pool fees. So really, the Park Board has limited authority. It's designed that way. And since the city council proceedings are recorded, the public does have access to all of the major recommendations that come from the Park Board. And the process that the council uses to discuss those recommendations provides the public ample opportunity to review and provide input at council meetings. And much like I would reiterate what Lorraine said, if there are concerns or questions on recommendations from the Park Board, I would invite any city councilor member to meet with Director Kearney or any members of the Park Board at their discretion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Mike Crane. In 2016, I completed 10 years as a member of the Sioux Falls Park Board. Prior to that, I also had the opportunity to serve 2 terms as a member of the Public Parking Facilities Board for the city. And given my age, from 1984 to 91, I served as an elected member of the Sioux Falls School Board. I'm a strong believer in open meeting laws. Government is designed to serve the people. It works best when actions are transparent and the public is informed and engaged. Nonetheless, having weighed the pros and cons of the proposal to video or audio record Park Board meetings, I'm here tonight to ask you not to override the mayor's veto of Ordinance 1417. During the time that I served on the Park Board, our meeting schedule was adopted a year in advance. Our meetings were noticed in accordance with state law and city practice, and the proceedings, as mentioned previously, were all recorded. We welcomed the presence and participation of interested citizens, and for the most part, discussion that we had at those meetings was healthy and very productive. From time to time, however, the controversial item would appear on our agenda, and news media would cover our meetings. On those occasions, I experienced firsthand the discomfort of board members, the anxiety of knowing that their remarks might appear in the newspaper, on TV, or on a blog, made them reluctant to participate in the discussion. As a result, our recommendations weren't probably as carefully reasoned as they could have been otherwise. There are important differences between serving as an elected official and serving as a citizen volunteer. Someone who runs for office expects his or her thoughts to be made public and accepts the fact that their positions will be challenged. Moreover, an elected official is a policymaker, ultimately responsible for governance decisions. The final decision-making process that they go through deserves an extra layer of scrutiny. Members of the Park Board are unpaid citizen volunteers. The recommendations of the Park Board, whether they involve fees, capital spending, or the locations for public art, are advisory only. They require ratification by the council and the mayor before they're enacted. Members of the board are not policymakers. As advisors, board members need to feel comfortable enough to engage in lively discussion that results in thoughtful recommendations to the council and to the mayor. I don't believe that the changes that you're contemplating with this ordinance will do anything to enhance the process of government in Sioux Falls. I believe that you have the rules in place and the practices are there to ensure open meetings, public participation in the process. You don't need to add and additional requirements that may, in fact, deter some of the participation that you're seeking. Again, I ask you not to override the mayor's veto of this ordinance. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. I'd too like to share some of our observations when external audio or videotaping occurs during our board meetings. It's clearly more engaging board discussion and deliberation when they are not recorded compared to when they are. I've seen over the years as board members have come and gone that a typically very engaged board member will be very reserved in those cases when they are audio or video recorded. And you might also think that people should be willing to speak out and speak their mind regardless of whether they are recorded or not, but the reality is most do not. Some of the reasons I believe they're more reserved during these times include that they're truly and honestly concerned when they have open debate about an issue that potentially doesn't align with another board member's position on an issue, that it could be construed or painted in the light that board members are somehow at odds with one another over an issue. The reality is that they're actually debating the merits of each other's ideas or thoughts on an issue in the course of arriving at a board recommendation. Their concerns with speaking up in those situations is that somehow they are now, this now becomes a front page headline and portrayed in a much different light than intended. Or maybe they're concerned that their personal opinions about a particular item will be associated with their employer's position on an issue, when in reality they're solely speaking for themselves. In those cases, it can cause a board member to resign or be asked to resign by their employer to avoid negative sentiments towards their employer. And I've heard these very concerns in recent days and weeks. Or that voicing their opinions too strongly will hurt their own personal business, depending on how the information is used and what stance they take on a particular issue. It's been our experience that the vast majority of board members do not seek the spotlight, or quite frankly, want any part of it as part of their service on our board. They just want to make a difference in their community through their volunteer service. We do believe that our board meetings will be more deliberative, more engaging, and render better recommendations without the proposed ordinance requiring the audio or video recordings, and we'd encourage your support for the veto. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Folks, did anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Welcome. Ciara, come forward too, please. Welcome.
Good evening. Gary Myers, Sioux Falls REMSA Board Chair. The members of the Sioux Falls Parks and Rec Board really eloquently explained all of the details of the reasons why to sustain the veto. So the only thing that I would add is that it's been talked about several times through this process that this is an issue of open government. And I do not believe personally that this is an issue of open government. These are open meetings and people are allowed to, and they are held, our REMSA boards, our meetings are held in a very nice public area that has plenty of parking, that folks can come and join us for those meetings, and I encourage everyone to do that. I think that this is, again, not an issue of open government, but of an issue of accessibility. We've had a couple of council members come, Councilmember Starr and Councilmember Staley have come to our council meetings. And
Gary, just 1 second,
Sure.
please. Thank you, Jim. Good job.
Don't do that again.
Gary, our apologies. Continue.
I appreciate the council members that have come and participated in the REMSA board meetings and other members of the community that have, which is very few. And I think that's where the participation in board meetings needs to happen, is during the meetings so there can be interaction and not just viewing and comments later on a video or a news article. I think that's the important part of city boards, is that there is interaction between the community members. I encourage more council members to come and join us, interact with us at our REMSA board meetings, and I encourage the public to do so as well. If there is an accessibility issue, then for folks not being able to join, then we can work with that. But I don't believe that recording the meetings increases anybody's accessibility to the interaction with the boards. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Ciara, welcome.
Ciara OBrien, Sioux Falls. As a community activist, when I got a hold of a council member, just one with the speaker.
You're okay. Go ahead, Ciara.
When I did a council, when I contacted a council member to pull up Wiley's, I lost my job over it. For the rich people, I lost it. As a community activist, this is what you engage. When you do this of the kindness of your heart, you are engaging to lose your job, publicity, this, that, the other. If I was on an advisory board for Sioux Falls, which I have been in other states, it's called transparency. What do you have to lose? We need to move forward. Sioux Falls is back 20 years behind time. What do you have to lose by recordings? So as a citizen, if I was on this advisory board, I would say, I don't have nothing to hide. Let's record and let's put it to the public. If I remember correctly, one council or two council members said that they weren't just going to start on the parks and recreation, that they were going to do all of them like that across the board, not just pick on one certain one here. But I'm number one. I've lost my job by doing community activist work here when we put Wiley's on the agenda for their liquor license. And I chose that, and I knew it was coming, but I chose that for my community as a community activist. So if these are community activists sitting here, they shouldn't have no problem with it either. So I say override the veto. It's called transparency here, and this is what we need in Sioux Falls. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Ciara. Welcome.
Greetings. My name is John Cunningham. I live 4904 South Oxbow. I'm here not as an advocate for either side, actually. I just wanted to provide some information. I've been a staff for various city councils and commissions over the years. And I have two observations. One is that I've served in cities as small as Watertown and as large as Atlanta, Fulton County as a department head. And that's commonplace for boards as small as boards of equalization and as large as all kinds of boards to record their meetings. My Board of Equalization, Board of Assessors always recorded their meetings, mostly as a self-protection measure, because then they can't be misrepresented or they can correct it. On the other hand, and I'm an economist, so there's always another hand. Lyndon Johnson was always looking for a one-armed economist. Yeah. On the other hand, as the gentleman said, things can be more muted. Yeah. when they're recorded, and sometimes that's a good deal. I'm going to tell you, and the other thing I'm going to tell you is an experience in Fulton County. The Atlanta Fulton County Library Board made some injudicial statements. Very stupid orders came, and 5 affected employees sued them, and because of the recording there was indisputable evidence, they lost a $15 million lawsuit. So there's another hand. If you're concerned that your people are going to say really stupid and injudicious things, then you can be caught at it. But otherwise, it is very common for boards to be. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John, and welcome. Welcome.
Bruce Daniels in Sioux Falls. I've been up here many, many times. All of you know my cameras are in the back of the room here. They're going to be at a lot more boards and commissions over the next some time to come, because people don't come to these meetings for a very important reason. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what those boards and commissions do. I've been to several park board meetings. I've recorded them. I've recorded Board of Equalization. I have over 400 videos that I've done in the last couple of years of all kinds of city functions. And yeah, there are times we have fun with a few of the videos. Right? That's what we do, because we see things that are funny and we bring it up. But most of it is we record the meetings as they are, just so that people can see what's going on and why we do it. We're very passionate about making sure that as open government advocates, that we're open in our process. I was just in the other room and doing the working session for the fiscal committee. And that's going to go up in its entirety the way it is. because I think it's really important that the people of Sioux Falls have a chance to see what went on in there. When we were at the veto presentation, we found out for the first time that the meetings are recorded and they only keep 3 meetings as I understand it, in the history file. So when I've been on some boards over time, I've wanted the video recording. When I was chairman of the Election Review Committee, I insisted that we video the recordings so that people could see what we were doing and why we wanted to expose what was happening. We were doing it not to protect us, but to protect the staff, to give people information, and I wanted to make sure that all the board members were protected. So the snippet sphere is totally and completely unfounded. We threw those up in their entirety, and they have been studied. And I've gotten comments from around the country from people who have watched those videos. I have been to a lot of these meetings. Some I've never even heard of before because the board members had been to court, and they asked me to come and video these because there were contentious things that happened in those board meetings that they had no recollection of exactly how it happened, and they had to get together and try and rebuild their memories of what was going on. So I have been asked to attend a lot of these meetings. That's how I ended up at some of the meetings I've been to. It's open government. It's legal open government. So members feel that when we're there, we're actually, some people may feel uncomfortable at the start, but by the time we're done recording the meetings, they are all like, they forget that my cameras are even there. And I'm happy about that. I try and be in the back where I'm not in the way of anything, but there's never been a time these videos have ever picked on a member of a citizen board, because it's not their job to know all the rules. What we have found in our recordings, and I have an example that somebody that sat right here in this chair that did something that was not quite legal. And if I wanted to push that issue, if there was something that came back, I would have had what happened there. But that happens more often than not, and the board members that would have been up here at this dais would have been to blame when it was actually the staff member that caused the problem. And I also feel that if a staff member gives an honest opinion, then that needs to be corrected. That needs to be on the record so that they have something to fall back on. The REMSA board meeting that I was at recently, that was a bone of contention with individuals, I was asked to get that up online as quickly as I could because there was some controversy involved in it. I substantiated exactly what the reporter that was in the room, I accurately had that video up there, and there was no problem at all. I'm going to be going to more meetings. I'm going to be requesting the audios of all boards and commissions in the city of Sioux Falls. As long as they're available, our mayor told us that they were going to be available. Joe Sneevy from the Argus Leader made sure that they were available, and they're going to be made available. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Folks, thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it. Oh, please come forward.
Briggs Warren. Oh, come on. The arguments coming from the members of the board that are here this evening center around the fact that when recorded, people act and behave differently. That by doing this, it would harm the flow of dialogue and the members and their ability to advise the council. The members of the board mentioned multiple times that they report to the council, and the council has access to them for review. The problem is, as you all know, I'm not on the council, and I'm not able to attend all the meetings. So effectively, I have been shut out of city government, and that is counterintuitive to transparency in government and democracy as a whole. To the councilors who stood with me a year ago and pledged their support to transparency and open government, I applaud you for continuing that fight, and I'm glad to see you sitting here tonight. We've all had our words taken out of context, myself included. It's not fun, it's not an enjoyable experience, but we all survived. It's a fact of being in the public eye and serving the public. which leads me to my final conclusion. The mayor's veto this past 2 weeks ago was not to protect democracy or transparency, but in fact to protect the board members themselves, which begs the question, who is he protecting? I hope you all protect the citizens and transparency tonight and override the mayor's veto. Thank you.
Thank you, Briggs. Well, folks, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it. Councilors, any comments, questions, motions? Councilor Staley?
Well, first of all, I would like to have our budget analyst, Dave Bixler, come up, please, and do a little brief presentation. I know that cost has been discussed as an issue as this has come up, and so we have some information we want to share with the citizens.
Councilors, I've just been informed by Colleen that before we start the discussion with the council, I'm supposed to see if there's any of the councilors that were on the prevailing side, if they'd want a motion to approve it.
Move to approve, Erickson.
Councilor Erickson's made that motion, seconded by Councilor Staley. Thank you. Go right ahead. Okay.
David Bixler, Budget Analyst for the City Council. I was asked to look at the listening and learning sessions and the Parks Board meetings, and I took a sample of 6 listening and learning sessions and 7 Park Boards meetings and came up with an estimated cost of what these meetings would incur for the multimedia department. Essentially what happened is that the average cost per event for the listening and learning sessions is $442 per hour, or per event, excuse me, and then the Parks Board meetings would be about $261 per event. The big difference between the two that I saw would be the post-program editing, where the listening and learning sessions would require editing, where the Parks Board meetings would not.
Thank you, David. Councilors, did you have any more other? Yes, Council Chair.
Mr. Bixler, did you have any? Do you have any figures on what the equipment cost would be to increase the amount of equipment in case we had to double up on times or anything like that, or?
I did not take that into account for the fact that it's not broken out by departments within the capital improvement plan. So these amounts that I used are just the general fund, and they're the labor, benefits, and the overhead rate.
Just the labor then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, David. Councilors, Councilor Erickson, you're welcome.
Oh, where do I begin? Thank you for presenting that. I appreciate that. And those were numbers provided by the administration. On top of that, I also asked him to look at press conferences. And in 2016, there were 89 press conferences. In 2017, 11 press conferences. And I think the important thing about that is, as we talk about the recording, we're not saying stop doing listening and learning. I think it's a great tool. I think it's great access to the mayor. I think it's great to have that information out. I think press conferences are fine. We do a lot of them as a community, but they're fine. All we're saying is do one less and record the park board meeting. That's really where this falls into play. So I just wanted to make that point, and I know others had asked him the same question. The other thing that I want to say is at no time was this any disrespect to the park board. At no time did any of us ever say they were doing anything incorrect or hiding anything or anything like that. I want that to be very, very clear. That was never, ever communicated. You know, as the lead sponsor of this particular ordinance, I find it very, very unfortunate to learn the fate of this ordinance via press conference. There's no decorum. There's no longer courtesy or respect with this council to report back and say, hey, just want to let you know, let's have this conversation. There was a courtesy done beforehand. There was a courtesy taken to the park board. It was discussed with Don Kearney. This is something we've been talking about for well over a year and a half, not just recently. This has been ongoing for a long time. So it's very unfortunate to me. Wouldn't it have been helpful to have the deliberation and the discussion of why the pool rates were increasing so substantially? It was an emotional issue. We had a lot of feedback from the community. We didn't have that deliberation. I was at the mercy of what was told to me. That's okay. However, I'd love to have that deliberation. What about the Mary Jo Arboretum when that was cut from the CIP? It was reduced. Why not have those items in front of us? Now, here we're fighting simply about form. They're recorded. They're recorded. I wanted to have the maximum flexibility with this particular ordinance. I didn't vote for the amendment that said only audio record. I didn't do that. I wanted maximum flexibility. I wanted the ability, hey, I found out recently, they already record them. Great, give us access. I'll tell you in full disclosure, I've never watched a planning commission meeting. I haven't. I don't attend them. However, I will tell you that I've watched bits and pieces when we've asked staff to help us with it. We've been recording that one for years. Years. You could say the same argument that people might lose their jobs. People might not want to have the same debate, but it's common. Change is hard. It is. Change is hard. So we simply are asking for all those citizens that want the access to the information. 4 o'clock is a tough time. If you're disabled, if you have a job, if you want that information, watch it at your couch. Watch it from your computer. Go to it if you can. That's fine too. Whatever you want to do is fine, but it's important to have that access. Now, also, the other thing that was brought up recently here tonight as well and other times is why was this board singled out? For me personally, this board is unique. They shall initiate. We cannot act as a council until it has gone to the park board. Period, end of story. It's different. It just is. Much like the planning commission. Can't come straight to the council for a rezone. You have to go through the planning commission. And having that conversation is really, really important. Again, no disrespect for the planning commission. It's just important to have that information. So I ask you today to please override the veto. This isn't paving the way. We're not the first group that's ever done this. You've heard from other speakers tonight that other groups do it too. There's access to it if we have to keep going and finding it. The recording's there. Just put it online. That's all we asked for, is put it online. Put it on a YouTube channel. I don't care. The other thing that unfortunately was lost in this as well is the 48 hours. Now, I know I've talked to Don and he had said he would honor that, and I appreciate that. However, that was lost amongst the conversation because we have had times where we have had an informational and a vote simultaneously. So I just ask that you consider this. It's a tool for not only the council, but a tool for the citizens to promote our city, promote being engaging, and really get more people involved in it. It is really out of the utmost respect for the Parks Board in allowing us to know the deliberation behind the scenes. Thank you for your time.
Councilors, any other comments? Yes, Councilor Staley.
Well, I have to say that the park board meets at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. We are committed to being here at 4 o'clock on the Tuesday, so we can never go to those meetings. REMSA meets at noon. I teach piano. I'm committed at noon. I can't go to those meetings. But thanks be to God for our citizen, Bruce Danielson, who has been going to these meetings with his $70 video camera and videotaping what's happening. And last month, I had the opportunity to watch the REMSA board and watch the park board because of his efforts. And it was great for me to be able to see that. You want to have rich, robust discussions. You're having great spirited dialogue. That's part of how we're making our decisions. And I think it's all about transparency. Our citizens want this. And the discussion's been had that we need to maybe take a few boards every year and start putting them on YouTube, as we've shown that the mayor is doing that right now. We can do anything in our community. We are a can-do community. So I echo what Councilor Erickson said, that this is not meant to be an insult to you at all. But I think the fact that we've had this kind of a pushback on the effort has created an image in our community that there is something to hide. And I've been out talking to citizens, and I think the general consensus is let's have this opened up. Let's put this out there. It's not a big deal. We can do it.
When I was asked by the media to comment on this veto, I responded with one word: absurd. I stand by that characterization. Now, why do I say that? Because there's no reason to fight transparency. This fight was totally unnecessary. This ordinance requires so little effort to comply. The loudest objection to this ordinance relates to the video recording, but let's be really clear, this ordinance does not require the video recording. Remember, my amendment to require the video only failed. All of the arguments about grandstanding or cameras stifling conversation, which for the record I don't accept, they're moot. They're a red herring. Video is not required by this ordinance. This ordinance requires only audio. Video is an option, but it's not a mandate. I'd prefer the video. I think the objections are silly, but it's not required. Again, my amendment failed. So what are we fighting about? This ordinance only has 3 mandates. The first is that any action of the Parks Board cannot be brought to the City Council for at least 48 hours. No one has mentioned any objection to that. That only leaves 2 requirements. First, the meeting must be audio recorded. We've learned the Parks Board already does this. They do it for the minutes. The Argus leader obtained the last 3 months of those recordings pursuant to a public records request. So we already have the recordings. They're a matter of public record. What are we left with? Publishing those recordings on the city website alongside the minutes of the meeting? That's it. That's what the administration is fighting so hard to avoid. Why? That was worth the veto in a press conference? Given that these are already recorded and they're a matter of public record, that leaves the administration effectively fighting for one thing. That's for the right to make it as onerous and inconvenient as possible for citizens and taxpayers to participate and engage in their city government. We're really truly fighting over form and not substance. The administration's position in the 21st century, with all of our technological advances, is that you should take time off of work to go to a Parks Board meeting, or that you should have to call the Parks Department, have them make you a CD of a Parks Board meeting, and you should have to drive down to pick it up. All of this instead of simply putting a file on the city website that anyone can consume on their own time. What a waste of city staff time, and what a waste of the citizens' time. Let me touch on a phrase that's thrown around a lot. That phrase is common ground. Some of my fellow councilors wanted to give the administration flexibility. They wanted to avoid a veto. They wanted to find compromise, in other words, the common ground. So they voted against my amendment, all in the spirit of finding common ground. I didn't agree, but I respected what they were trying to do. And you know what they got for their trouble? The back of a hand, and a little spiking of the football for good measure. Where is the common ground? It's not here. To my fellow councilors, if you vote no, in other words, to sustain the veto, you're voting to make the public's access to information as inconvenient and onerous as possible. It's indefensible and it's wrong. To my council leadership, there really does come a time where you have to decide who you're working for. Are you working for us or the mayor? This vote, in my mind, is going to answer that question. There's no partisanship here. Transparency is not a partisan issue. It's just the right thing to do. Let's do the right thing. Let's assert our authority as a council. We're a policy-making body. Vote yes to override the veto.
Councilor, thank you. Councilor Urbach.
Thank you. 2 things. The 48-hour thing, I don't disagree with that, but I believe that we're not the legislature and we should take things one at a time. That's it, because it did get lost. I would agree that bring it back for a vote. The second thing for me, and I said this the last time we talked about it, this is about today's cultural desire of so-called advocates to berate and belittle the people they are addressing, and it's worse when the TV cameras are running. And I'm telling you, I've had more people say this to me, Michelle, you're right. People love being in front of TV and making you look like dirt. Yes, I'm protecting the board members, and that is why I'm voting to uphold the veto. Yes, I am protecting my friends and my neighbors from this kind of, and it's been great tonight. I thank you for being as polite and upstanding as you have been tonight. But until we get back to a time when people can be civil to one another in a public forum, until we can speak with respect to each other and handle these issues as adults and as professionals, I will vote to sustain this veto over and over again until we get back to the point where we're professional and civil.
Council Vice Chair Kearney.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I respectfully have listened to my colleagues on both sides of the issue, and I do respect their opinions. And as many of you are aware, I was absent on January 17th when this vote first came about. If I had been available at that time, I was prepared to vote against the ordinance. And after careful consideration and many conversations with my colleagues on both sides of the issue, I've come to the conclusion that I've not changed my position. And I'm going to be brief as to why I oppose the ordinance and why I will sustain the veto this evening. The Parks Board is a citizen advisory board, and I'd like to emphasize the word advisory board. It does not have the authority to spend taxpayer dollars. Only we, the City Council, have the authority to authorize funding. An example of a time we parted ways with the advice of the Parks Board occurred recently when we disagreed about pool rates. We, the Council, stopped the process with not a lot of time available to do so, and I'll address that later. But we stopped the process and we proceeded with implementation of our own fee structure. We have parted ways in the past, and we can do the same again if necessary in the future. The parks in Sioux Falls are often referred to as the crown jewel of our city. It's certainly something that I enjoyed greatly as a child growing up in this wonderful city. We strive to have a park within a half mile of every resident. People from out of town often rave about our parks, as well as individuals that live in Sioux Falls. This did not happen by accident. Our parks are a result of people with a vision, people such as city staff, Parks Board members, citizens, and City Council members have all worked together in good faith to provide all citizens, regardless of economic status, with the opportunity to enjoy clean and robust parks. While I respect the views of my colleagues on the other side of this issue, I believe we have a vibrant park system because of the process we have in place. The process we have in place is working. It is my feeling the proposed ordinance is not necessary. It's a solution looking for a problem. There's other things that we can do, and for that reason, I will vote no to sustain the veto tonight. And regarding the time, that is one area I am in agreement with my colleagues, or many of my colleagues. I agree the timing of the Parks Board's meetings are not ideal, given they meet at the same time as the City Council informational sessions. I have requested and have been told the Parks Board will give serious consideration to moving their meeting to the third Wednesday or third Thursday of the month. If this is done, it will ensure the City Council has 2 and sometimes 3 weeks to familiarize ourselves with issues addressed during Park Board meetings. Based on the reception of my suggestion, I have the expectation that my request will be seriously considered. Thank you.
Council Chair Rolfing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really interesting to sit back and look at this and look at it from both sides, because as some of you know, I originally was in favor of this. But I think tonight we've proven that the berating that people can take on these park boards from different people was proven out by one of our fellow council members tonight. I wonder how much more berating would happen if this ordinance passed. I can't imagine what might happen. Therefore, I'll be voting to sustain the veto.
Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
A lot of my points have been made, but I just wanted to say, if you're going to argue, we're going to talk about an issue that talks about transparency and access. I think to be against that or come out against it, you've got to have a pretty strong argument. And while I respect the points made by those who have made them and who they are and their points of view. I just don't think it quite holds up because of a couple of points. We did make stipulations last time that while we wanted it recorded, we wanted to give you the freedom of how to record it. If cameras are a big issue, Councilor Erpenbach had made a good point about that. Maybe there would be some grandstanding. That's always a possibility. Well, we've given you some leeway now. Just record them. They're already recorded. Let's start with that. Just make it easier access. There could be an issue, what if somebody's taken out of context? Well, to me, that's a head scratcher. If it's taken out of context, let's go back to the recording and see what was said. Volunteers, can they take the heat? Is there going to be some scrutiny? Yes, I believe there will be some. I don't think it will be to the effect that we're hearing. I think a lot of these meetings aren't in what you'd call prime time. Maybe they won't be on camera. I don't think there's going to be that big of an issue with that. That's my opinion. If it becomes one, maybe we can talk about that. But again, I think we're underestimating maybe the moxie of some of the people in this town. I tell you what, I know a lot of folks in Sioux Falls that don't back down and speak their mind, and I think they'll handle themselves just fine if they need to. I don't think we're going to scare them off boards. So I respect the other side. Again, I'm not really sure. Again, it's another head scratcher for me why this is such a difficult issue. We're talking about transparency, access for people, but I just thought it was important to maybe throw my view out there too. So thank you.
Great job. A roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Erickson?
I'd like to make one more statement. Thank you.
Okay.
Before we go to the roll call vote, I'm obviously not going to change any votes here by what I'm going to say, but I just feel it's important to say. I know there was a comment made about spending authority, and there are boards that do have spending authority, not the Parks Board, but there are two that have spending authority, and it's spelled out in our ordinance. So I just want to make sure that's clear that is not uncommon. I know that statement was made by the mayor during Kelloland, and so there is an advisory board that does allow that to happen. I just feel this is such a frivolous use of a veto pen. As we have state and local and national governments are trending towards transparency, they're not trending away from it. This little thing right here, my cell phone, it's changed. When I was in high school, I had a pager. I mean, who has a pager anymore? You don't. I had a bag phone on my first job. I had to put my little antenna up there. Access to information is so easy. My son just went through a whole training thing in middle school about being a good person on social media. What does it mean to be on social media? The fears of taking pictures and what can happen with that. Information is everywhere all the time. It's simply getting access to allow us to do our due diligence. Like I said, we're not trending away from transparency, we're trending towards it. And it's just really unfortunate that this had to be an item that was vetoed without little conversation with the council. So I know where the votes are, and it's unfortunate, but that's the way the ball rolls sometimes.
A roll call vote, please.
Could you make sure we know
Sure.
which way we're
You
voting
bet.
for what?
You bet. That's very fair. Very fair. Councilor Erickson made a motion to approve the item that was discussed a couple of weeks ago. That was seconded by Councilor Staley. So if your vote yes, that means you want to fulfill with what Councilor Erickson had proposed.
Override the veto.
And override the veto. And to be clear, you need 6 councilors need to vote yes to override the mayor's veto. So we got that, team. A roll call vote, please.
Council members, pardon me, Erpenbach,
No.
Kiley,
No.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Rolfing,
No.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That has failed 3-5. Item 37.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 3408 East 10th Street from the CN Conservation and C3 Commercial Community Districts to the CN Conservation and C3 Commercial Community Districts, petition number 6033, 2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Thank you, Denise. Jeffrey Schmidt, representing planning staff this evening on a few items. This item It's in the northeast that splits northeast to southeast. It's a small little project. It's an existing project on the east side of town, 2.74 acres. As you can see, it's an existing project between C3 and Conservation, and it is the George Boom Funeral Home. George Boom is expanding on their property, and they're going to rebuild their existing structure on their existing C3 property, and they're adding parking on their CN. To be able to do that, you can see on the left to the right, they just need to add some C3 onto the right to be able to allow that parking onto the new rezoning exhibit. And this was what the new proposal would look like. But again, to finally summarize this, they will build the new structure and then demolish the existing structure and then do the parking to the back.
Jeffrey, thank you. Folks, this is a second reading. You have the opportunity to engage the council on this topic. Would anybody be interested in that? Councilors? Councilor Starr?
Yes. Do we need a motion first? Or
If you, that'd be great.
I would move to approve.
Thank
Second,
you.
Selberg.
Councilor Starr has made that motion to approve it, seconded by Councilor Selberg. Councilor Starr.
Yes. Actually, Mr. Schmidt, if I could, please. The only, I've gotten a couple emails from constituents who were concerned that the zoning came after the building permit and the process is going. Could you just let us know why we're why we're not cart before the horse type of
Certainly.
situation here?
The clarification there is they got a building permit on their existing property and on the existing C3, and they didn't need to get the expansion until they do the parking lot to the back.
Move approval, Rolfing.
I've already got that done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
Good
right.
job.
What am I talking? Yeah.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Thank you, Council. Item 38.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at the southeast corner of West 69th Street and South Beale Avenue from the RA3 Apartment Residential High Density and CN Conservation Districts to the RA3 Apartment Residential High Density and CN Conservation Districts, petition number 6038-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Jeffrey?
This one's also very similar. It's already zoned by you as RA3 for high-density apartments and CN. You can see the drainage way down the middle, and it's highlighted in black. As they move forward with this project, the drainage way has now been finalized in what it's going to be, and here is the final zoning exhibit. On the left is what we've zoned, and you can see how the CN for conservation now on the right side has been adjusted, and it's way down in that southwest corner. They didn't need that whole little corner to be conservation for the pond, so they brought that back in to add that little bit of RA3. It's 50 feet that they've adjusted to finalize their plans.
Jeff, thanks. Again, folks, second reading. Anybody want to talk about this with the council? Councilors?
Move to approve, Nitzert.
Second, Erpenbach.
Councilor Nitzert's made a motion to approve this item, second by Councilor Erpenbach. Councilor Erpenbach.
Question about the pond then, Jeffrey. Does the pond stay even though that drainage way changed its route?
As you can see, and that it is kind of confusing with this, they're elongating that pond in the aerial, so it's going north and south. And so what's happening is the drainage way is along this entire subdivision now. So the pond will still be there, but it's in the entirety up and down.
Less a pond and more of a stream-like
It's a drainage
structure.
way, correct.
Okay.
And so it won't be detained necessarily there, it's retained along the entire site. Yes, there will still be detention there.
Thank you.
A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Nitzert?
Yes.
Rolfing?
Yes.
Selberg?
Yes.
Starr?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
That has passed 8-0. Item 39.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property south of vacated West 23rd Street and west of South Minnesota Avenue from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts to the LW Live Work District, petition number 6095-2016, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a relatively small site. It's a half an acre at 23rd and Minnesota Avenue. It's currently zoned RD1, and they're proposing to rezone it to C2 commercial. The property has basically been resculpted. On the south side is where they're building a fast food restaurant already on Minnesota Avenue. And what the gentleman wants to do is he's taking the RD1 and C2 away and making live work. He has the option to put office there, but what he would like to do, it's the owner is the applicant, is he'd like to put twin homes and townhomes on the west and towards the north, and there are 4 units on the west and 7 units to the north. You'd come in off of vacated 23rd Street, you'd pull into this parking lot, you'd park underneath, and you'd have 11 units there on this live work development.
Thanks, Jeff. Anybody in the audience want to speak to this item? Councilors?
Move approval, Rolfing.
Second, Selberg.
Councilor Chair Rolfing's made a motion to approve this this item, seconded by Councilor Selberg. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Rolfing,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Staley,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 40.
A resolution declaring the necessity to construct sidewalk on East Arrowhead Parkway and assessing the cost to each lot or tract of land benefiting thereby.
Welcome.
Good evening. Jeff Delories from the Engineering Division of Public Works. This resolution of necessity would allow the city to construct sidewalk as part of the 2017 reconstruction project of East Arrowhead Parkway between Sycamore Avenue and Highline Drive, and put on notice those 13 properties that may be eligible for assessments for the proportionate costs associated to sidewalk as allowed by state law and city ordinances. These properties shown have never had sidewalk, have not yet paid arterial street platting fees, or have a direct access or access other than designated by the engineering design standards for an arterial street. This continues the plan of the implementation of state law and city ordinances set by council the last couple of years when sidewalk was constructed and assessed to adjacent property owners on East 10th Street between Sycamore Avenue and Bonson Avenue. The property owners have been sent letters, followed up by phone calls, and have been talked with over the past year and a half or so as we designed the project. And we've had several private and public meetings involving the project. I want to stress that this is just the initial step for the installation and the assignment of assessments associated to the cost of sidewalk on this project. This only puts those properties on notice that are subject to these assessments according to state law and city ordinances. We are still finalizing the design of the project and are still in negotiations with property owners throughout the segment of roadway. It will be nearly 2 years before we are back before council with the actual resolution of assessment for this work. And I and Director Cotter are here to answer questions, and the city engineer's office ask council for approval of this resolution.
Thanks, Jeff. Did anybody want to speak to this item in the audience? Welcome.
Jeff DeYoung, I guess. When were the public meetings on that?
Jeff, did you have some comments you wanted to make, sir?
Well, I was wondering when the public meetings were. I guess I didn't know about public meetings for addressing the sidewalk issue, and I don't recall any phone calls about that. As was stated, I guess, you know, that if there was actually a public meeting,
okay,
I guess, for the sidewalk.
Very good. And Jeff, do you have other comments as well? And then I can get that answered for you, sir.
Okay. That'll work for right now.
Very good, Jeff. Thank you. Jeff, Mr. DeYoung was curious about public meetings. You had mentioned that there were a couple of public meetings in regards to this resolution.
Well, there has not been public meetings directly related to sidewalk,
Very good.
But there have been general public meetings as far as the design of the project and the letting them know what, what's going on, the timeline of the project, and there have been several meetings, I know, with the property owners out there in particular. Mr. DeYoung, I know, has had several conversations with our staff and our design engineer.
Thank you, Jeff. Folks, anybody else want to engage the council on this topic? Councilors? Councilor Staley?
Yes, I would like to have a motion to defer item 40 to Tuesday, March 21st.
Second.
A motion to defer this item to Tuesday, March 21st by Councilor Staley, seconded by Councilor Neitzer. Any comments, Councilor Staley?
Yes, I have some comments. I did notice in the red notes that there were, as we were looking at item 40 and 41, that there were some concerns from some of the residents. And as this will be a costly endeavor for them, I always like to get feedback from them. I did email Director Cotter last night and asked that if he would give me the contact information for the people, and he told me this morning he couldn't give me phone numbers, and then I said I'd like addresses, and he didn't get back with me on the addresses till about after 3:30 this afternoon. So just for the sake of due diligence for these people, so they have a chance to visit with us, I did talk with Larry. Larry, are you here? Yes, he was going to come up and say something. Larry, did you want to speak? Is that okay?
I think a counselor can ask anybody.
Do you have a question
Larry,
of
well,
Larry?
Larry was supposed to come up earlier, but he didn't. But anyway, Larry he's from Burns Auto. I am visiting with these people. They've been told that they will not have to pay. They have not had phone calls returned. They've not had correspondences replied to. So I think I'd like to give the situation a month to let things get resolved with the city staff and these people involved with the assessments. That's what would be my desire.
Thank you, Councilor Staley. Councilors, Mark, did you have a comment to Councilor Staley? Okay.
Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. Just a brief comment. This is when we set a notice of hearing, which tonight is the notice of hearing, and there's a very prescribed process with state law that if you do choose to defer this, that you would defer it with the continuation of that tonight was a public hearing, and that that date would also be a public hearing. There's a very prescribed process when you set the notice of hearing, you publish it in the paper. But I would just say all we're doing tonight is you're declaring that there's a need for sidewalk. That's the key. And then we'll go through a process of design and construction. The real decision will be when we come back to you and we'll declare the resolution of assessment. That's when the cost would be placed on respective properties. When you run a resolution of necessity, that's what we're doing tonight. It's a resolution of necessity. We've deemed that it's necessary to construct sidewalk out here. One of the key things that we've tried to advance through and across the city is complete streets. And a significant portion of complete streets is mobility for walkers, runners, joggers, and sidewalk is a significant factor in that. And so I would just certainly tell you can defer this, but it is simply an action that deems that it is necessary to construct sidewalk. The next item is 69th Street. That's another significant project. It'll be a similar discussion. This is Arrowhead Parkway. We have been designing these projects for an extended period of time. Truly, we'll be sitting down with these property owners and making sure that they fully understand the process and the scope. Both gentlemen that are here tonight, I certainly respect that this is a cost based on conditions, but certainly just want to clarify tonight, you're essentially deeming that it's necessary to construct sidewalk. That's it. You're not placing an assessment on these properties. That will come in about 2 years, okay?
Councilor Erickson. Mark.
Mr. Cotter, if you can stay.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my question. When we talk about just this is the need assessment, but moving forward, you start doing the construction, all of this, and after the sidewalk's in is when you come back and say, okay, now you have to pay X amount of dollars per whatever, right? Is that how it works, or?
That's right.
Educate me on that. Because
Yes.
here's my need, here's my fears. We approve this without some of the input and hearing some of the upset citizens on the street, on this street area. We're not going to put the sidewalk in and not assess them. I mean, that's just going to be the final step. We're going to put the sidewalk in and assess them. It's not a freebie.
Well, this, we have to, from a complete street standpoint, put the sidewalk in.
Right.
And then
So
there'll be a due diligence process on if there's an assessment. And that's really the second action. And
So do we not assess, though?
What's that?
Do we not assess then? Do we put sidewalks in and not assess? I mean, maybe that's a naive question, but.
Yes, well, just in the one case, Mr. DeYoung, they've got some property that today is undeveloped. And so we've laid out a couple scenarios where if they move forward in this respect, they would be assessed. If they move forward, they have 2 roads. And so it's one of the factors is access. And so we could come and lay out those different conditions, but they essentially have some undeveloped land that we can lay out the respective options, and then they can decide, is that assessment of sidewalk worth access or not? And so, but I would tell you that tonight, all we are doing is that we're declaring it that it's necessary to put sidewalk in, and that these are the properties that by state law we could levy an assessment on.
Okay,
the key decision will be after it's constructed and after I can actually give these property owners a firm number what that assessment would be, which would be in about 2 years. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Neisert, if you wouldn't mind, Colleen, would you mind just explaining to the council what it is that we're doing tonight and why it's so important?
Sure. One of the questions that I have that I'd like clarification of, and it's an option that the council has, is that they can continue this hearing tonight to another date. And it has to do with the notice requirement, because we have given notice of this date tonight, and after you've given notice, you have to have a hearing within 20 days. And we are within the 20 days. We're at 16 right now. And so if we can continue the hearing, we won't have to renotice everyone again, and we could just have a continued hearing at this point. No question?
That's fair.
Councilor Erickson, you're mad about something, so what is it that you're mad about?
I'm not mad, I'm just trying to process that. Okay, there's other questions.
Councilor Neisert.
Yeah, I would just like to clarify, when you say continue, how does continue differ from a motion to defer?
If we are considering this a hearing right now, then we are just continuing it. If you are doing a deferment, it would matter what our notice requirements are under state law.
So are you giving a suggestion of an alternate motion if one wanted to continue it? Is that possible?
One could certainly do that.
So Colleen, what would be your, if the council wanted to continue this discussion for the purposes of providing more due diligence with citizens on these prospective routes, what would you recommend that they do tonight?
There's certainly nothing that would prevent you from continuing this hearing to a new date. If we continued the hearing, the notice that we have served at this point is sufficient under South Dakota state law.
And
is there a limitation to that? Continue.
Once we serve notice, we have to have a hearing within 20 days. We are at day 16 right now. And so if we didn't have a hearing tonight, which I believe we're having, then we would have to renotice everybody and give that 20-day notice again.
Can you have a second hearing on the same topic?
Certainly you can have a continued hearing on the same topic.
A continued hearing. So Councilor Staley's made a motion to, if she makes a motion to continue the hearing to that date in March, is that acceptable?
Certainly.
Okay. Councilor Chair Rolfing, before I go to you, Councilor Staley, did you understand what just transpired? And I don't know if you'd be willing to
Well, whatever's going to, because let me just say, and this is coming up in Agenda 41, and I hope Spirit of Joy is here, but I called this morning and they told me that they were, now this is the same thing, they were contacted on Friday about this issue. It shows up on our agenda on Friday. I would like to speak with them, and we're voting on it tonight. So to me, the due diligence is being shrunk into a wad of nothingness. And so I think all of these people need to have an ability to speak with us, and I want to see that the city's worked with them because, you know, hammering down a $30,000 assessment on a sidewalk's a big deal, just like the annexation costs are a big deal. They aren't necessarily going to happen next week. So I think we can work with people and show compassion and reasonability with them. So if it's, the wording is called continue the hearing, I'm fine with that. But, and if we need to change, I was going to go to March 21st just to give plenty of room. Maybe it doesn't matter what day of March it is.
Okay, Colleen, I'm going to go back to you. Then,
Mr. Mayor, can I make
Councilor,
a suggestion? I think I
okay,
can fix this.
Go ahead. Thank
I
you.
would move to amend to continue this hearing until March 21st.
Yes.
That we're continuing
Second.
the hearing.
Colleen, did you hear that?
I did hear that.
And is it acceptable?
It is.
Very good. There's been a motion to continue this hearing till March 21st by Councilor, oh, that's a substitute, or is that an amended?
It's an amendment to the motion.
It's an amendment to the main motion, seconded by Councilor Erickson.
Substitute motion.
That fixes it.
It's gonna
We
be
gotta
Is
vote
it a
on
substitute or is it an amendment?
Substitute would be.
Substitute, I think, would be the appropriate term.
Okay. So it's a substitute motion by Councilor Starr, seconded by Councilor Erickson. Councilor Rolfing.
Okay. Director, if we would vote this in either tonight or the 21st, when would the sidewalk go in on both this one and on Arrowhead and on Southwestern?
So the item that we're talking about is Arrowhead Parkway. That's going to be a significant project that'll get bid in April, and likely will go through the majority of 2017, and there'll be some finish work in 18. And so the sidewalk will either go in 17 or early stages of 18 based on the sequencing of construction. The next item would ultimately be all in 17.
Okay, so you're telling me that if we vote on this in a positive way, the sidewalk's going in this year for the most part on the western and either 17 or 18.
That's correct.
And they will have an option to put it in themselves if they wanted to do that, or have you guys do it as part of the bid, and that gives them about less than a year to plan for it. So.
That's right, and then we'll be coming back later with a resolution of a necessity or assessment, and there already been property owners that have said that they do intend to put in their own sidewalk, but appreciated the offer, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilor Neisert, sir.
Thank you. Real quick, so I will just say I did talk to 3 property owners on this one, and there was a lot of confusion, and I don't know exactly what happened. In one case, the person had just been on vacation and just came back, and the letter was essentially sitting on his desk. So, no harm. I mean, there's no ill will by anybody. But he just didn't have any notice till this afternoon, essentially. At least that was his contention. The only other thing, so I think it's a matter of just fairness, just to let them process it. I think they should have a little bit of time. I don't think this is an emergency. The only slight objection I would have is I think we're downplaying the significance of this, because really, whether you actually assess in 2 years or 5 years, once we authorize this, you can put in the sidewalk. The only question is when you come back to do the assessment. Nobody is... we're not going to put in the sidewalk and not assess somebody. That really never happens. So I think the green light is given once we make this vote tonight. That's my only objection, I guess.
Well, there are a number of scenarios that can play out. That's why we identify which properties today would qualify for assessment based on state law. But there are undeveloped lands today that could develop different, could have access point different, which then could change whether they're assessed or not. And so that's why we always like to come before we let the project, but we'll be working with property owners on both projects. This is something that we do each and every year, certainly on our significant projects, and we'll keep you abreast of it.
Councilor, you're not voting on the resolution itself. Right now, you're voting on a substitute motion by Councilor Starr that was seconded by Councilor Erickson to continue the hearing till March 21st. Councilor Erpenbach.
Just to clarify, is someone going to take it upon themselves to contact each of these property owners and let them know that their hearing has been continued? Is that?
We will certainly do that, Councilor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's outside the norm, so I appreciate your extra effort.
Yes, Councilor Vice Chair Kiley.
Just one other thing that I feel is being missed in this too, and that is the safety factor, the need to have a sidewalk in place. And there are properties on the other side of this parkway that have sidewalks in. So I think it's a fairness issue as well. But for me, the safety issue is a big one, and I hate for this council to miss that point: pedestrian safety.
Good point.
Very good. Again, we're only voting to continue the hearing. That's all we're voting on right now. And we're not voting on the resolution.
That's right.
Right, Colleen? Correct. Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach.
Yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 41.
A resolution declaring the necessity to construct sidewalk on Southwestern Avenue and assessing the cost to each lot or tract of land benefiting thereby.
Again, this resolution will allow the city to construct sidewalk as part of the 2017 reconstruction project of the 69th Street and Western Avenue intersection and roadway project, and put on notice those 4 properties that may be eligible for assessments for the proportionate costs associated to sidewalk as allowed by state law and city ordinances. These properties shown have never had sidewalk, have not yet paid arterial street platting fees, or have direct access or access other than designated by the engineering design standards for arterial streets. The property owners have been sent letters followed by phone calls, and for the most part, I think we made contact, we're able to make contact, and have been talked to throughout the year, whether it was a property sale or through the project design. And we have upcoming public meetings, and we've had some private meetings with some of these properties. The city engineer's office asked council for approval of this resolution.
Folks, is there anybody who wanted to engage the council on this topic? Councilor Starr, I'm going to go to you first.
Great. I would move to continue this item until March, was it 21st?
This hearing.
Second.
Thank you. There's been a motion to continue this hearing until March 21st by Councilor Starr, seconded by Councilor Staley. Any further discussion? Council, we're not voting on the resolution. We're voting on continuing the hearing. A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach.
Here, yes.
Kiley.
Yes.
Neitzert.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Thank you. Item 42.
A resolution approving a revised joint cooperative agreement establishing the Southeastern Council of Governments.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Neitzert. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For those who are not aware, CCOG, or the Southeastern Council of Governments, is a cooperative entity that promotes regional cooperation and provides services to the 6 counties and their municipalities in southeast South Dakota that it represents. The City of Sioux Falls currently has representation on the CCOG Executive Board with 2 City Council members, myself and Councilor Starr, as well as the mayor or his designee. The joint cooperative agreement of CCOG states that each first-class municipality in the 6-county region shall have a member on the board. A first-class municipality is one with a population of 5,000 or more. Harrisburg now has reached the population of 5,000 and is now classified as a first-class municipality. Therefore, the City of Harrisburg is now entitled to a seat on the Executive Board as a first-class municipality, which the Mayor of Harrisburg is proposed to fill. Right now, the Mayor of Harrisburg is a member of the board as a private member, but this would give the City of Harrisburg a permanent seat. The board is a total of 21 members, which also includes 8 private sector representatives and 2 state legislators. To keep the membership steady at 21 members, the proposed amendment reduces the number of state legislators from 2 to 1. Each of the jurisdictions represented, both counties and first-class municipalities, must pass a resolution adopting these changes. This resolution signifies our approval of this change to add the City of Harrisburg to the Executive Board of CCOG. I urge your support.
Councilor Neitzer, thank you. Folks, another resolution. Did anybody want to speak to this item in the audience? Councilors, would you mind making a motion to approve, Councilor Neitzer?
I'd love to make a motion to approve.
Seconded by Councilor Chair Rolfing. If there's no discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer,
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 43.
A resolution approving the release of permanent easements located in lots 1 through 12 in Block 23, McClellan's addition to West Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota.
Jeff.
This resolution would approve the release of permanent easement on lots 1 through 12, Block 23, McClellan Addition. This is located directly west of the St. Joseph Cathedral and runs between West 4th Street and West 5th Street and between North Prairie Avenue and the vacated North Summit Avenue. There are no public or private utilities located in this easement, thus no retention of any easement is necessary. Engineering supports the release of the easement, and I believe somebody is here in attendance from the Catholic Diocese to talk about the project, if you have any questions.
Sure.
And that's what the project is going to look like.
Looks nice. Did anybody from the audience want to speak to this item? Welcome.
Thank you, Matt Altoff, Chancellor for the Diocese of Sioux Falls. Just very briefly, we are making preparations to erect a permanent monastery that will be a part of the campus at Cathedral St. Joseph. Many years ago, a right-of-way easement was vacated, and so we've had what would appear to be sole control over the former alleyway there, and there has been utilities running through. So this measure is just to take away. We've already made provision, and the utility trucks are on site right now making a workaround so that the Excel and power, I guess, electric and telephone and all those things are going around. So that's all site preparation. We'll have all the building permits through the proper channels when we get to that point, God willing.
Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilors, I'm sure somebody wants to jump on this one.
To approve, Erpenbach.
Councilor Bach does. Councilor Starr, second. Very good. Any discussion? A roll call vote, please.
Council members Erpenbach,
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
Rolfing.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Staley.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
That is passed 8-0. Item 45, please.
Item 44 is a
44.
report of the January 27, 2017 Notice of Transfer of Appropriations within Major Organizational Units.
Very good. Thank you so much. Councilors, any other items you would like to discuss? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Is second?
Second.
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? This meeting is adjourned, Sioux Falls. Make it a great, great night.